believe it or not, so we're all good.
Ooh.
Everything's back to normal. This week, unfortunately, we don't have George though, so we've drafted Chris in as our replacement host, and for some reason I'm getting paid an ad on Twitch. But regardless, so Chris is here as a host, so we're just going to run for our guests. So this week, of course, technically a guest, but we'll call him a host. We have Chris Stealth, who is a caster. We call him
Caster,
a
presenter, host,
caster,
interviewer, anyone you want in esports.
Your
I
logo
can
is
do
fresh,
it.
to be fair.
His
I wish I had
logo?
a logo like that.
Chris has got a logo? So does Chris
Oh,
have a logo?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a logo, but on your banner, like, not
Oh,
bad.
banner, right,
Not
yeah.
bad at all. Your
Oh, is it
Twitter
the
banner,
headphones
Twitter header.
with the
Yeah, the
microphone?
headphones, yeah, with the mic. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not about a logo, but
that's a logo. I made that.
it's. Did you actually make that?
Yeah, I made that myself.
Chris,
I
can
got
you
bored.
make,
Wow.
can you make me a
That's
logo,
fresh.
please?
I
thought
would
you'd
make,
say
but it would
thanks
just look
for
like a
that.
steaming pile of poo.
I deserve that, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, regardless, that's enough about Chris. Of course, then we have our recurring guest this week, which will be Tactical Rab. You guys know him from his videos on YouTube.
Wow.
And, well, if you know him at all, that is. And, of course, he was on episode 1 discussing Call of Duty with myself, George, and Chris. And, of course, as well, joining us as our special guest this week, Savannah Hart, who is a YouTuber, I believe.
Yes.
And you're getting involved in esports now. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Savannah.
Yeah, so my main thing that I do is I actually manage professional athletes primarily in the NBA. So I kind of got into esports because, as I'm sure you guys have known, the NBA is getting heavily involved on the esports side. They just established their first esports league. They considered it their fourth professional league. So I've been getting a lot of engagement from the players. So in regards to investments primarily. So I've been doing my research on esports and I've had a knack for it ever since.
Yeah, and
is.
again, this week, so this podcast, generally speaking, is more focused on Call of Duty esports specifically. So we'll be getting to that very soon. But for those of you who are new to the podcast, we segment it. So unlike the first season where we just had one big topic and we talked about it for an hour, this week, this year, we have 5 parts to the podcast. Of course, the introduction, which we're currently in. The news section we'll get into in just a moment. We have a couple of spicy news items to get into this week. Then we have our ACL update, which we'll talk about this week's 5K. We'll have community talks, which is just basically what you guys are saying in the chat. And then, of course, the big question, which this week is based around viewership and whether or not that will uphold. Because, of course, Scump, he got 100,000 views on his stream this week, which is one of the most viewed streams, not only in terms of players, but actually in terms of Call of Duty events. Full stop.
Ain't nothing.
It's
Not bad, is it?
It's not bad
I mean,
for
come on.
2018. It's not bad
It
at
for
was
all.
the most viewed on
200K.
Twitch by miles.
Well, regardless, we will get into that later on, so that will be our big question the last half an hour of the show. But for now, we'll be jumping straight into the news items for this week, and of course, we're going to start off with Call of Duty and the base game. So we have had patch notes out. So this is one of the smaller news items this week, so I'll just transition it over for you guys on screen so you can see currently what's on those patch notes. I'm not sure if you guys have them up. I don't believe Aaron will do, because he's
good.
unprepared like that.
You expect me to be doing any sort of research?
I'm
Like, come on.
unprepared.
I mean, I didn't have them up
I'm
either.
the
I believe one of
unprepared
the biggest
I
things...
do have them up here.
You do have them up, okay. So one of the
Yeah.
biggest things to note is that the infamous score streak glitch is gone. So for those of you who don't know, they're
Apparently gone.
Apparently gone. Of
It
course.
comes to the patch note. I haven't been keeping up with the Twitter.
Yeah.
Maybe
not.
there's still a way to do it. Like,
Yeah,
they don't always fully fix things.
There's multiple glitches, but this is one that we finally got rid of. So for those of you who don't know, previously in Search and Destroy, which is the second of 3 game modes in Call of Duty Black Ops 4, on the competitive sides of things at the very least, basically you're not supposed to be able to respawn with the streaks that you had going before you died. You could do that via a glitch. That has gone now. How do we feel about it?
Good, because I mean it's a glitch. It shouldn't be there in the first place. So
I
I mean, how else do you expect me to react to that? Like,
I'm
I'm ever so
devastated,
gutted that my favorite glitch is now gone. I can no longer use the score streak. Like, come on.
It wouldn't surprise
Yeah,
me,
so
Chris.
Brody.
You normally have
Like-
backwards thinking, so...
This was a major issue in this week's 2K, of course, when you had the situation where, you know, the Mad Cats team versus it was the eventual winners in Quicker's squad.
Yeah, Dylan's
They had that really interesting situation. I'm sure we'll get into that
You
a
just
little bit
about-
later.
yeah.
And then also I think it happened in the APAC or Asia Pacific region as well, when Rush Gaming, they got forfeited against some team for also using a streak because they weren't fully aware that that was the case, because they had to ban all of them this week because there were so many situations where people would get streaks where they didn't actually earn them, and it happened all the time in GVs. It was super frustrating. So I'm glad it's gone, but there's arguably still bigger issues remaining, I guess. I don't know. It's a start, and Vegas is still a month away. So they've got one more month. It's been 1 month. They've got one more month. It took them a month to fix one glitch.
There's 10 more to
in
go.
Another month, we'll get... Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
there's
We'll
one
get the
glitch
blue
every
name
month
glitch
that
gone.
gets fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this glitch has only been like apparent within the last like few days / week. So like, it wasn't there previously. I'm highly sure it wasn't.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I've
I've-
noticed this for...
It's not something
It's
I've
not
noticed.
prevalent.
Okay.
It hasn't been used because of course myself and George, we cast the ACL. It hasn't been prevalent in there at the very least. At the very least, we haven't noticed it. So if we haven't noticed it, we're just bad casters. But
Well,
yeah, it's not been used by the youth scene or amateur scene at the very least. But it's definitely been an issue in the pro scene. And of course, like Rab said, it actually caused a dispute between Mad Cat's team, which is a team of pretty heavily well-known players, and Dylan's team. And of course, then there was some serious back and forth beef on Twitter off the back of that.
Beef, like, it was one way. That shit was petty, man. I was seeing stuff
Yes,
about,
yeah.
like, blacklisting these fools. What's going on? Like, I swear this is why this team, maybe not that they're backwards. I don't want to take shots, but, like,
it's
the
too
way
late.
I see
Do
it,
Say it
it's
already.
like, there's a boys club going on here. You get Mac and Josh. Okay, they've had great success in the past. Now they kind of look down on these newer guys. Like, the stuff they were saying to Dylan was absolutely unacceptable, in my opinion. Like, calling him a spastic, what Josh was calling him. Like, you can't say
This
that
is
shit.
esports.
I know he's not related at all. I know he's not
Wow.
representing an
You guys play
organization
dirty.
now, so you don't kind of have to say that. But, like, the way I see it, they're not like they're jealous, but the fact that they're saying that it doesn't mean anything, like, it's just the 2K doesn't mean much, it's just for practice. And then they say that at the same time of just flaming these kids for taking a single round off them because they used a streak, which was actually banned in the game.
Yeah.
And then they're going to threaten them to blacklist them from scrims. Like, who else are you going to be scrimming but the best team in Europe online in the current moment? Like, it just seems so backless to me.
Well,
You're just going to scrim heretics again?
Well, exactly. I
Like,
mean, the thing
not
is,
gonna do anything on LAN.
yeah, all those European teams. So Team Reciprocity and Red Reserve and Splice, of course, is technically already over there. They're going to America. So you're not scrimming them. It's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's looking slow.
It
Quickest
is a
team looked
little.
really good though.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like,
their
I'm looking
comms
at this like 2K lineup, and I'm looking at the results, and a lot of these are like players that have made the name for themselves within the last year or two. Now, I don't know if that is because a lot of these are now like stepping away to go to the North American region, but some of these are really stepping up and making a name for themselves already.
Yeah.
Seems to always happen though, doesn't it? Like online at the start of the year, you get these.
Well, I don't think to this extent
online
where the
gods, they come out to play.
top four teams don't have organisations. I mean, that was a point that I made when I looked at it. I was like, actually, hang on, how on earth do these four teams not have organisations? Why are other teams getting funded? I mean, you look down the list, and this is not a shout. This is not a dig at any of these teams. But you'll see these teams with organisations that are getting to go to Vegas, and then the number one team is not going to get to go to the first major, let alone the most important major of the year. Like,
I mean, they could
it's a
probably
dangerous
fund
game.
themselves or something, but that's the thing with the 5v5. Like, even Theory's team, like, what is it? Theory, Parasite, Zotic, Godorex, and Panda. Like, they don't even have an organization yet, and they have a pool play spot, but they haven't found an org. Like, where's Team Caliber? I don't know.
But they
Well,
went back.
last I heard that team was going to be picked up by the Lightning Pandas.
Yeah, and that's apparently not going to
but
happen
that
now.
that only fell through, only
Yeah.
because from what I hear, I think it was Exotic. No, it was Theory. Theory was asking
Mhm.
for a lot more money, and therefore Pandas just said, "Nope, bye."
That's crazy. I mean, I was like, it makes sense, but 5v5 is such a the salaries. I don't know if we can. Maybe we should get into the salaries. 'Cause it might be
Yes,
something
yes.
that Savannah has some insight on. But basically, what we're seeing in Call of Duty at the moment, as it seems, is that the salaries are just going through the roof. Like we're hearing stories of players earning like 15 plus grand a month. Like what was the thing for Zuma? Like he's earning 20 grand a month or something like that. The Optic players, I think, are on at least like 12 grand, and it's an interesting one considering the game, last year's game, did not have many viewers, didn't have a lot of compared to in the past, but yet we're still seeing a crazy increase in salary for a lot of these guys. And a lot of the players, I think they see that their friends are getting picked up on teams and get earning bank, and they think, well, I must also be entitled to like 10 grand a month because that's what these guys are on, playing for 100 Thieves, playing for Optic and stuff like that. And it's kind of getting out of control to the point where these guys can't find an organization that are happy to do that, considering there's not really much money to be made unless you're a super top team. And in addition to the fact that they have to fund an extra player this year and potentially a coach and like a general manager, or if you want to be a really top tier org. So like, I don't know if you've seen this in other areas and what the solution is going to be, because apparently we're going to get franchising coming in, and then you get to the point where maybe this increase in salaries is sustainable with that extra input, or it's just going to like crash to something that's more realistic, because right now like it's not looking like fair enough, they're making bank, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, but honestly, like from the business side, there's only more and more interest, especially when it comes to sponsorship. Media rights is expected to almost triple within the next year or so, and that's really where the big money comes in. And that's with any sport, whether it's basketball, football. Media rights is a huge one, especially for esports, because the media rights is broken up by the IP. So, for example, Call of Duty will have its own media rights where all of the money will be allocated to the Call of Duty players, and it's not spread out between, let's say, like Call of Duty, League of Legends, etc. Whereas in the NFL, it's all one. So the media rights has to be spread out between each team. So it's more than sustainable, and if anything, there's going to be more money to be provided to these players once all of that sponsorship and media money comes in.
You'd hope.
I mean,
but then what happens in that situation to the non-franchise teams? Because then you get this problem, in my opinion, at the very least, where everyone's asking for salaries, because that's what's happening at the moment. That's why Mad Cat doesn't have an org, is because he hasn't had an org offered that's going to give him the salary that he wants, which is fair enough, because Mad Cat's team, they deserve the salaries. But you're going to get this problem where you have everyone who is in the franchise teams, whether it be next year in 2020 or the year after that in 2021, how Activision actually works with it. And they're all going to be on salaries, and the top amateur teams are going to see that, and they're going to want salaries, and they're not going to get it. It's the accessibility for organizations, even in a path to pro setting, is going to be lowered. The investment in Call of Duty from big organizations is going to drop dramatically. It already has. I mean, you see even Rise Nation, who is owned, I believe, by an ex-NFL player, if not a current NFL player.
What's his name?
I've forgotten his name now.
I'll find out.
But he's
Google it.
he's definitely owned by an NFL player. And even Rise Nation, with all that money of an NFL player behind them, can't afford a Call of Duty team at the moment. That's an incredible statement to make, and there's no profits from Call of Duty either. I think that's one of the other things to note here, is that Call of Duty, is not a top tier esport. It's not an esport that's going to give you massive returns as an organization, because the viewership isn't there, which we'll get to later on, and and therefore the fans, there's not a potential fan base for you to get. So is it sustainable?
Unless you pick up Killer.
Unless you pick up a big personality. But do those even exist anymore? Do big personalities really exist? Do pro players really push themselves?
Come on, man, Scum God.
There are a few. There's a select few, but do pro players realistically push themselves to become personalities and give orgs a reason to pick them up?
Oh man, that's a question.
Yes, there is. And it all comes down to their media
Saffold,
presence at the end of the day.
like that.
Roger Saffold? Yeah.
So it's all down to the media presence. Now, if they can make their own sort of brand then yes, then you've got yourself a personality in which you can invest in the long term. But I mean, a lot of these players don't anymore. They now focus solely on just playing COD. They don't
That's because they're getting
stream. They
banked.
don't.
That's one of
Yeah.
the issues with it.
It is, but at the same
making,
point, they don't think
like,
long term.
racks.
A lot of these just think short term. And
Yeah,
now
no, of course they
the
do.
playing career is only going to last for so long. Now, what happens when, like the likes of Killer, they no longer have that organization to support them anymore. Now they've got to make their own way off their own back. Have they got any support in that front? Have they got any like YouTube, Twitch that's going to be able to bring in that money to help them support this lifestyle? A lot of them, no. And which is where a lot of people are going wrong with this. They now just think it's get on an organization and you've got it set for life. Not the case. If you build up your own brand, you build up your own identity, the organizations will come to you in the long run to help build around you. Like, that's the way that this should be built now.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, I
don't
completely agree.
And don't these teams have managers? Like, don't the managers have some sort of understanding that there is a huge marketing proponent to this? Like, is that not a focus in esports right now?
Well, it depends what esport you're talking about, because Call of Duty esports specifically is focused on social media. So the majority of the fan base in Call of Duty is focused on social media. That's why you'll see the biggest organizations in COD, at the very least, such as EU United, focus very specifically on making sure that they have a social media following, and that's why they're more careless with what they tweet and such, because they know that their fan base are going to enjoy it. But moreover, it's more professional organizations, ones who have esports teams outside of Call of Duty. They're the ones who have that manager, that know where to go in terms of earning fans, like Optic Gaming, like Team Envious. They're the biggest ones. Like 100 Thieves are now starting to build since they have a League of Legends team. So it's not there quite in Call of Duty. It depends whether you're talking about Call of Duty specific organizations, because
That's fair.
most of them are like cross pollinate between esports.
Now, United know what they're doing though. No, sorry, go on.
No, it's okay. I was going to say, but however, if Call of Duty is growing, don't you feel like the infrastructure will automatically come? Like, people are going to see the potential, people are going to see the opportunity to make money, because you can make money off of, obviously, streams, YouTube, things like that. So as any manager, wouldn't it be an innate thought like, hey, let's build up your following, your personality, so that we can make more money and build better talent? No.
I'd love to agree. I'd love to say that was the case.
Sense, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, but a lot of the teams and a lot of the players think about themselves, and so a lot of the organizations will think about building up their own following and their own media brand before anyone else's, due to the fact that they want to bring in the sponsorship from their end. Now, they'll think solely narrow-minded. A lot of the bigger organizations, however, are very good at helping develop brands for their players. Optic Gaming, for instance, a superior brand, if you ask me, massive brand. And yet they're able to build up their own players' media hugely. If you join on that organization, I mean, you're instantly open
Octane.
Exactly.
They joined the team, they got like 6K, 8K viewers on the stream.
Yeah, and the followers as well on Twitter. It shoots up.
Yeah.
Do you remember Parasite joining for like a day? Do you remember Parasite joining? So Parasite is basically a Call of Duty player who's irrelevant now. He's irrelevant.
He's going to get in the league.
He's now irrelevant, right? And well, you can't get a team, but Parasite is now. He was a player that joined Optic for a day.
Team with Theory, isn't he? Pretty sure he is.
Can't get a good team then.
Yeah.
Regardless. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so Parasite is a player that joined Optic for one day, literally one day, way back in, was it 2014? It was during their time when it was during the time when they couldn't get
like Saints.
Yeah, Scump left for Envious, and it was during this time. For a day. And then he gained, I think, a solid like 10K followers off the back of it. Like,
that's insane, and that's in 2014.
It's
just crazy how many followers COD Twitter has. Like Nature has like 3.5 million followers. Scump has like 2.5 million.
And the thing is, even now that Nature's expanded to 100 Thieves and expanded to League of Legends, his following did not come from League of Legends. It came from from his time on YouTube and on Twitch as a Call of Duty streamer and YouTuber and a player, of course. I mean, that was last, but for nature. but you know, I think it really does show the power of social media in Call of Duty at the very least. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
good response.
no, for sure. Sorry, like, no, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I was going to talk about the United stuff. If you want to go back to that,
we'll get back to that. So we did sort of digress quite a lot.
Bit
there.
of a tangent.
Bit of a tangent, but regardless. So for those of you who don't know, of course everyone knows because it's Call of Duty, and anyone who is in the stream will have probably watched Call of Duty. Will have seen that we had our first set of 2Ks this weekend, and of course our first set of winners. A few surprises, I think we can say, at the very least. So in North America, Optic Gaming went on a 33 or a 27-0 spree, depending on who you're listening to. And in Europe, we had a team without an organisation, with the W, of course, in Nolson, Quicker, Zerg, Weeman, and
not Zerg.
It says Zerg. Sorry, Dylan, not Zerg.
Weeman.
Yeah, Dylan, not Zerg. And I believe it was Tainted Minds in Australia.
Tainted Minds won Australia. Yeah.
So Tainted Minds actually surprised Mindfreak in Australia.
Mindfreak have won. How many of the last 2Ks?
Exactly. Mindfreak have been the number one team in Australia for a while.
Because they couldn't have competed in the ones towards the end of the last season because they're in the league. But like, when's the last time they would have lost a 2K before then?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I can't remember.
It would have been last year.
Yeah.
Last season even. And I think it was last January. Because again, it was Tainted Minds that beat them to it.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the top two teams.
From Naked's wedding or whatever, but
yeah.
I mean, that doesn't matter.
I mean, it kind of makes me laugh about it. It reminds me of like City Bell Sydney 2017, the both Sydney events where the grand final was literally like Mindfreak versus, I don't remember who the second team was back then. I think it might have just been Tainted Mind still, but it was literally like the top two teams, and they 3-0'd every single other team in the tournament. Those two were literally the only two relevant enough to do anything worthwhile. Which is it's still the case nowadays.
That's the case in Australia. Like,
see, I feel bad
to get good. That's all we need.
Oh, I've just looked at the COD Gamepedia for the APAC 2K. It literally lists every top 32 team, and then there's one top 64 team, which is Rush Gaming. So I think people went out their way.
Those are the guys that got forfeited, I think.
So I think people went out their way to put Rush Gaming in there. Ouch. Which is a point to make actually while we're here, is that I believe not a single team from the Asia region got in the top 32, got points off the back of that. Unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that's probably the case. I'm looking at it now.
They probably would if they didn't get forfeited for using a streak, I think. But like, I don't know, they came to Anaheim last year, like it
was 10 teams, wasn't it? Or 10 or 11 teams.
Was it 10?
It was 10 or 11 teams. So there was like 8. There was like
mad.
6 or 7 teams from Japan. I think like 2 or 3 from Malaysia.
I mean, that bodes well. Like, I would love to see that.
Oh, I know. I was so happy when I looked at it.
But that's really cool, man. Like, that's just the thing. Like, consoles are not big in Asia in general, and I don't really know if that's ever really going to be the case. Because like if there's anywhere that consoles are going to expand throughout next, it's more like South America and Africa, I guess, to some extent. Because like that's kind of the first step into. It seems that way to me at least. Like, the Asian guys have already got past having a console because now they have the mad PCs. They play the PC games. So I don't know to what extent that's they're going to be world beaters. But if they get good enough practice, I know they're talented.
Potential Pro League spots. I mean, practice makes perfect, right? I mean, I'd like to see an Asian team in the Pro League one day. I doubt it.
That's really interesting because when I was doing research before, the top paid players were majority from all Asia.
Yeah, League of Legends.
So it's
from League of Legends.
So basically, there's
and
this.
I think Dota too as well.
Yeah. So basically, it depends what sort of platform you're on. So console esports. North America. That's generally speaking how it goes. North American teams are like the top of console esports, and if you're talking then PC esports, depending on what region or what type of game, you're either looking at like Europe or Asia. So like it's Europe. So Asia, it's sort of like for MOBA titles, or so tactical titles, so like League of Legends and Dota 2. That's like Asian based because that's what they play like consistently. Whereas if you look at an esport like Counter-Strike, it's so dominated by Europe. Not so much anymore. I feel like North America's starting to catch up, but. Like
it's
Chris is
pretty
saying,
rough. Like
it's
Yeah,
rough.
if you've looked at what it's looking like for the, I know this is not off topic for Call of Duty, but the European minor for the next major, the amount of top teams that are gonna have to go through that minor compared to like raw, it's just the gap is similar to Call of Duty in the extent that
Yeah, it just
most
flipped.
of the teams, it's just flipped. Like the
Interesting.
vast majority of the best teams are in the States in COD, but in CS it's the other way around. But for CS it's kind of different because they have so many events that they could constantly travel across the world and like get boot camp practice.
Yeah.
Whereas in Call of Duty, because I mean, how many events do we have in this year? 6, right? At least 6 MLG events in the entire season, and then maybe we get more from elsewhere, like maybe E-League or Gfinity are allowed to run a couple. But it basically means that the European teams, they can't. Yeah, fair enough. They can't get the practice quality staying in Europe the whole year because they barely ever get to go to the States to compete. So the top teams are now going to be based in the States this year from Europe, which, okay, it's going to be good for them, like Red Reserve, Reciprocity, they're getting based out there. But then for the lower tier teams in Europe, like, you know, that's what I was saying. If Mad Cat's team is going to blacklist Dylan Cod's guys, then you know how much better practice are you wishing to get?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the thing is as well, that really causes issues for the European region. I mean, when those top European teams have gone over, the teams below them are not going to get any practice. And actually, I mean, I've said this so many times on different podcasts, including this one. You know, if you're a North American team, you have a head start ahead of European and Australian teams straight away. I mean, you have a direct path to play Pro League teams via the Pro League Challenge, which is basically where you play I think it's like the top 16 teams outside of the top 16 Pro League teams, which is worldwide, in North America, play those Pro League teams. And only North Americans get that. Europe and Asia don't. And it's that classic practice that Americans just have. So yeah,
it's also when you look at the substitutes this season, because like
it's going to be Americans, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Basically, all the Pro League teams, so the 16 Pro League teams, the top 4 teams at Vegas, they get put into the Pro League, I'm pretty sure, and then the other 12 are determined from a qualifier in January based on if you come top 32 at Vegas.
Yeah.
So some sort of double elimination thing or something's going to happen anyway, and every team in the Pro League has to elect a substitute from a team that isn't in the Pro League, that is in the amateur circuit or whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah.
So, and what are the chances that they look at someone like Dylan Cod, let's say those guys don't make the Pro League. What are the chances that someone like Red Reserve is going to say, okay, yeah, we're going to fund one of our, you know, fellow players back in Europe to come and live out here in the States to substitute in for our games? Like, of course, you're not going to do that. You're just going to get an American player. So the opportunities once again are going to go to the players in the States. And okay, they do have on average probably slightly better players, at least better amateur players. But Europe has a lot of up and comers like Chain, Maple, Kreza, like Dylan. Like these guys have come up in the last year or so, and we've seen what's happened with guys like Wuskin, Scraps, of course, Zed once they got their chance. So, like, it's going to be even more difficult to get their chance nowadays.
Yeah.
But what do you think the payout is worth funding? I mean, just a flight from Europe? Because the payouts are decently big in Vegas.
Well,
no?
I don't think it's just a payout from Europe, though. It's also about getting that visa so that they can go over there for that long duration of time.
Well, actually, it depends
'cause
because you're not going to need to sub that often, are you? You're only going to need to fly them out for one.
Yeah,
match.
you'd have,
That's the problem.
But they'd
like-
still need to be out there, like,
Exactly,
to practice.
Depends if you need.
it's
depends
tough to
how
know
you
when
them.
you'd need the sub. Like, what if one of your players is ill? You're just going to fly them out from the UK on a day's notice? Like, it's just
Yeah.
not realistic.
They're
They're going to have
yeah.
American players.
Yeah, and this is the thing as well, right? Is that there are actually probably better European players outside of the because if the majority of the top 16 teams in the world are American, and there's an added player this year because last year Call of Duty was played 4v4. This year it's played 5v5. So the talent pool in America is shrinking. It's shrinking down to the top 12 teams, the top 10 to 12 teams in America. That outside of that, there is, in my opinion, at the very least, and I could be wrong, there, in my opinion, at the very least, the top like European teams who aren't in the Pro League are actually going to be so much better than those substitutes, the potential substitutes from America. Like, I think
so much talent, man.
But I tell you what, if there is a team that does decide to use a substitute from Europe or potentially from Australia, New Zealand, I actually think they'll be better off, way better off in that situation. Like,
it's just the money is just
it's a huge investment
for these teams now, and like I can't see something like that happening
sadly not
for a sub that might be used once in the entire Pro League of 12 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just the way things are going with Europe, and it's a global Pro League, man. Global.
It's not global.
Like, at least get one event. We better have one event, man. Like, I'm actually.
We've got one event.
We've got one event.
You know this?
We know this. Yeah. We have one event.
You know this.
We know.
Where's it going to be? Like, do you know?
Well, we can't say that.
Have one guess.
One guess.
Like,
well, you can have one guess, and we won't tell you if you're right or wrong. We'll just stare at you.
Okay, one guess.
We're not 100%, but let's face it, there's only one place that it was going to be.
I mean, let's be honest, we're not 100%, but we're 90%. We're 95% that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just, come on.
Let's get some guesses in the chat. Like, I mean, Birmingham wasn't
They've already started guessing.
They already know.
Like, I mean, if I was M or G, I'd just have it in Birmingham again. Like, you can't go wrong.
Well, maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe. I'll be there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be there. Definitely, at the very least, watching. Probably not doing anything else, sadly. But not for a few
I'm liking
years
the
yet.
shout of Dublin, though.
Dublin, that would be awesome.
Oh,
yeah, I'd love to
quality.
see some events outside of Birmingham. Maybe like return to London for an event. But I know like the actual
the
how much it
like,
costs. I know it costs loads.
You're going to go to SSE.
I'm thinking about this through rose-tinted glasses. Okay, I want a London event. I know it's not going to happen.
No. Why don't you want a London event?
Because I don't know. I'd love to see another Gfinity. You know, like. How awesome would that be? A Gfinity, yeah.
Really?
Could you imagine like an event on the scale of Gfinity 3 again? Like, I'd love that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, but that would be nice.
Event win, right?
Like G3 would be quite nice, like a repeat of that.
Gfinity
are long and well.
We say it's a joke,
series.
Aaron. But actually, there was going to be an event at the Norbrec only. Yeah.
That was the ES hub, wasn't it?
Yes, and it didn't go. It didn't go ahead. Yes. Well, regardless, we did digress a bit, so we'll actually.
It's an event in Malta. Gonna fly out for that.
Yes, that would be.
He's
cool.
already been
My boy Rezia.
We'll move on from that. We can't talk about that. Regardless, we'll move on then to. I mean, we're still talking about the 2K, so we'll talk about this momentarily then. So final little bits on the 2K, and there was a little bit of beef in the North American 2K. Of course, Optic Gaming. They ended up winning without dropping a single map, but one of those maps was incredibly controversial. So I believe there was a scoreline in Hardpoint. I'm not sure what map it was. It's just from what I've heard, where the score was 245 to 245. A team needs 250 points to win. You get a point per second in Hardpoint. So literally 5 more seconds in a Hardpoint. Yeah, and basically Arcites from United, he lags out the game on the last few seconds. Optic Gaming takes the hill back from United, and Optic wins. United do not end. They are host at this point in the game. They could end that game. They do not.
Okay.
Optic Gaming
First of all, we should give a little bit of context, because on Halloween, United did a tweet.
We'll get this on here.
You can get it up if you want.
Yeah, there we go.
It was, in my opinion, it is quality, but they did this tweet that said, for Halloween today, we're dressing up as a top 24 champs. So Optic Gaming, of course, the most well-known organisation, the organisation with the most fans. They came top 24 at champs this year. They didn't even make it out the groups. World Championships had a shocking result.
Yes.
So United was poking some fun at them, and Scump, the most famous player in the world, he took that as like a personal insult to his ability, supposedly. I thought this, it's a little bit soft. Like, people on Reddit were going down this route as well. Nowadays, people seem to have changed their mind, but it's probably because all the Optic fans have come out the closet since they won the 2K. But regardless,
No, all they've just switched back from being
yeah, they've switched back from
Rise
Optic
fans.
gaming and they're coming back here again. Yeah, okay, maybe that's one way to look at it. So pretty much, E United were poking a lot of fun at them, and it's honestly just E United got exactly what they wanted. Everyone's talking about it. The Optic gaming players were really annoyed. And I remember Dashi saying after this map ended, one of the reasons that Dashi cited for not giving them the chance at a replay was that he said something like, "Your org costed you this one." That was the quote.
Yeah, I
heard.
remember that. I watched that.
Like,
yeah, I watched the clip.
Which is like, you know, your org talking shit on Optic. Like, we're not gonna reciprocate. We're not gonna give any love back. Which, you know, in my opinion, I didn't really watch it, but I feel like a replay makes sense.
Yeah.
But then again, it's only practice. Like, there was nothing really at stake here. So
It was map 1 as well, right? You say so. I mean,
map
it
one,
has
yeah.
to be map 1 because they freeoed everybody.
And
But,
then people say that that they got, or they say that the next 2 maps are blowouts, so it wouldn't have mattered. Like, as if that's an argument. The first map changes an awful lot in that scenario. If E United would have won that really close map, because E United had a comeback as well in that game. They came back to being in the lead, and then RC started lagging, and then Optic came back and won again. But like, if you win that map, then the vibe is so much different that you can't say that the series potentially wouldn't have been a different way. But I don't know. E United looking good though. Dropping JCap, man. Why did LG drop JCap?
I don't know. I don't like United, to be fair. So that's not because I'm an Optic fan. I just find their tweets.
It's because you're an Optic fan.
I don't know. I got Optic either. I'm a Splice fan. I was a Splice fan until they went to America, and now I'm gonna be Red Reserve.
No America love over here.
Well, no, we love America. We just
no, it's all good. Understandable.
Some of their players are like not very well liked in the community. So they picked up this guy called Temp, who like just talked shit on everyone, and then
do you remember his
Looney
tweets to
not...
censor?
Yeah, like just on Nate Shot as well. Like he was saying on Nate Shot was terrible. Like
he bet censor 10 grand.
You've literally done nothing in your career, and then they have Accuracy as well, who was like who won a couple of events last year, won like 3 events, and then because he was preventing teams' coaches from getting in scrims and stuff, for letting them watch their practice. So people don't really like him for that. People don't really like his personality anyway. So Splice is like the team of villains right now.
Yeah, I feel bad. I love Jerd though. Poor Jerd. I mean, he's one of the nicest guys in the scene, and he's just chilling on a roster of hated people. Like,
yeah, they could be good though.
I'd like them to be good. You said they got top 8, right? So anyway, I mean, so we'll go back to that tweet real quick. So actually, I do have the response to that tweet. So there was a deleted tweet from the CEO of Optic Gaming. Optic Gaming, one of the biggest organizations in esports as a whole, and he responded saying the following, and I'll put it on screens for everyone watching the stream. Can 3.8 million people unfollow our main account? We want to dress up as, and then ... Never mind, too easy.
Oh shoot!
I saw that actually.
So
I mean, it's all in good fun. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're just giving E United what they want at that point, because E United are getting so much hate right now on the Reddit. When they post a comment on their main account, they're just getting downvoted to shit because people are just pissed off at them, which is exactly what they want, because there's a lot of people who don't like Optic at all, and they're basically joining the United fan club at this point, because Clayster versus Optic has been a rivalry for a long time as well. Yes. The United are getting exactly what they want. Like, the Optic fans are feeding them it.
Yeah,
which,
and the thing is as well, this is gonna create one of the best storylines of the year. We're in the first TK, and we've got a good storyline going. This is gonna be amazing.
Imagine when they're on LAN.
Oh, it's gonna be so fun. Imagine that, the grand finals of Las Vegas. Oh, it's going to be amazing.
100 Thieves we should touch on.
100 Thieves? What are we saying about 100 Thieves in terms of their Call of Duty team at the moment?
They look great.
They came top 4.
Yeah,
they were looking badly in scrims.
Well, I think to be fair, the thing is, right, they started off. They announced their team, and because we know it's 5v5, we thought the game was going to be super fast, right? We thought, this is going to be SMG. So we thought everyone was going to use submachine guns in the game, and the meta was going to swing that way. And now we're in the game, and it hasn't. It's swung the other way. And the thing is, when 100 Thieves first announced their roster, they have 3 ARs on their team. And people were... And I specifically was very much like, well, this is a huge risk that could go incredibly wrong. And unfortunately for 100 Thieves, it's swung their way. They've got 3 of the best ARs in Call of Duty history on their team in a game which is so assault rifle based. Like, the ICR is the best gun in the game at the moment.
Nah, come on.
Just like, and all the Maddox, depending on, like, there's no real viability for an SMG. Like,
it's a weird meta we have right now.
It's incredible. It's like they could run 3 ICRs and 2 Maddoxes, and they'd dominate. Like, it's incredible. So
usually the way it works, Savannah, is that most people tend to use SMGs, especially in the pro scene, because they're faster paced. Like, they usually have higher fire rates, they're better at close range, and you can, because pros, need the faster pace they can make use of it more than like the casual player can. Usually the SMGs are used more often, but in this game, the assault rifles only have like 95% of the movement speed, so it's not really that much of a deficit. And a gun like the Maddox has a super high fire rate. Like, the theoretical time to kill of the Maddox is at point blank range is 1/100th of a second slower than the Sorg. So, like, point blank, the Maddox is almost as good as the Sorg, which is the SMG. And then it also, and because there's predictive recoil in this game, give it a little bit of time. Like, people were lasering guys with the Maddox. The ICR is, I think, going to be cut out of the meta, really, because people don't need the double grip when they get more and more used to the recoil patterns of the other weapons. So I don't know if it's really going to help 100 Thieves that much. To be honest, what I've been seeing of 100 Thieves is a lot of bitching and arguing. Now, they did well in the 2K, but so did G2.
What do you expect with Slasher on the team?
I mean, Slasher's fine as long as you have someone to calm him down, like a JCap or a Looney. But you don't. That's your issue.
You've only got enablers there.
They've got Enable, as their
But is he even gonna stick calm in that
situation? He was brought in as like the eldest there to kind of like calm everyone else down and like kind of guide them. But I don't think he's gonna be able to control this bunch. Not even close. That's gotta be tough to do.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about 100 Thieves as more of a brand, because lately, I don't know if we touched on the Drake thing, and we touched on the NBA players, like they turn up to matches in 100 Thieves merch and stuff like that. Like, that's, I don't know how much of a sensation it's been, like, outside of esports, but it's crazy for us.
People notice.
I mean, 1000%. And people have noticed to the point where, it's gotten to one of the highest celebrities at the point being Drake and Scooter Bond, who one of the biggest managers in the area. So for them to make that big of an investment and have it be their first investment in esports, that says enough about 100 Thieves.
It's only like a year old as well. Like, Nadeshot.
Wow, really?
100 Thieves started like kind of unofficially back in, was it 2016, I guess?
Yeah.
When they picked up the Aches team that just did tragically bad, and then Nature, like, he admitted his mistakes, he went away, and then he restarted the organization last year and picked up this great League of Legends team. It's probably one of the most fashionable brands in the whole of esports right now. Like, you can't get any of the merch; it's all sold out.
Yeah, no,
the marketing is phenomenal. Like, Nature has done an incredible job.
What an absolute baller, man!
Like, I mean, unreal from him. Genuinely unreal.
Yeah, actually, it's
like
unreal.
Watching him from playing like on Optic Gaming back in Black Ops 2 to witnessing this now, you're just like, what a transformation that is. That's insane.
Yeah.
That is.
That's a glow
Hopefully,
up.
it can be really good for COD as well. Because like Nature is not gonna forget his roots or whatever.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Who knows?
He's always gonna have a COD team.
Maybe. I mean, I don't. He didn't for a long time though. To be fair, did he? I mean, he tried to get it in. What was it? What did he start? It was Black Ops 3, right? He got 100 Thieves for a Black Ops 3 team way back when, and then essentially just dipped out for a while because his team went 0-12 in the league, and then, or 0-11, I think it was, and then now he's back with a better team, something he actually, I think, will succeed with somewhat. I don't think he's going to get a championship off the back of it. But until the roster changes a little bit, I don't know how, but I don't think that roster will be the winning team of Las Vegas. Saying this, someone's going to clip this in a month's time, and I'm going to have the shit ripped out of me. So
I hope they do.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they'll win in Vegas, man.
Okay, well, I'm glad I'm not alone in this now. So.
I mean, it's a weird team, and like Octane. I mean, individually they've all been really good, but the bitching, the arguing, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't see it. There's more well-rounded teams right now.
No.
And essentially, you guys need chemistry in esports, like any other sport, right? At the end of the day, like, I mean, we have the same thing in the NBA where you need those veteran players, even though they may be good, you need them to keep that balance. So that seems like, I don't know, I might side with you guys. You may need to do something about that.
Especially in a game like Black Ops 4, and it's super fast-paced as it is. It's probably get even more fast-paced as the year goes on. Like, when I was watching Quicker's team play the finals, like, I thought their comms sounded like it was still in a 4v4 setting, and like the comms were really chill, like they were calling out the right stuff.
Yeah.
They were getting the info across. I think some of the teams, I can't imagine what Josh's team is like with him just screaming.
Well, that's essentially, I was going to say that's essentially just a 4v5 call out.
Like, you've really got to learn it, because people still calling out like, oh, he's one shot, because one shot means like when they're one shot away from death, like really, really weak. But in this game, due to the manual regeneration, you can regenerate health really quickly on your own. So that call out doesn't really have the same virtues anymore. But people still using it. Like, there's definitely some adaptation that needs to be done, and communication is going to be super important, man. Especially with this control game mode as well. Like, which side do we hit? I can't say I really like it, but I mean, calling out stuff like that and predicting where the enemy's going to go and stuff is going to be super important. So, like, I don't know, if any team's got chemistry issues, I think it's going to bite them in the ass more this game than in the past, maybe.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Okay, so we'll move on then from that 2K and such. So Optic Gaming, congratulations if they actually won on their victory. I'm not dropping a map, no, they won't. But we'll move on then to our very own at the Esports Universe. We'll mention this briefly because not many people, I don't think anybody here even watched the 5K at the very least.
No,
of course Stealth doesn't. But regardless,
I had to iron me socks.
So I'm gonna throw up the Gamepedia page. So for those of you who don't know, I'll just run through this very quickly. I have to do the plug section of the stream. So just gonna plug the 5K. So for those of you who don't know, we had our 5K this weekend, our second one of the Arena Call of Duty League Winter Championship. Believe it or not, OBN Esports actually came out on top. So OBN picked up Control's team. And they actually won against Cryptic Gaming. Cryptic have notoriously dominated the amateur leagues for about a year now, or I suppose in between at least the important leagues. And this time around, OBN Esports came out on top in a Game 5. So that was pretty good to watch. Didn't expect that whatsoever, and it didn't go on till like 2 a.m. in the morning. So that's always a positive of a league. I mean, outside of that, everything's sort of the same, or rather not the same, because all the teams are just sort of all over the place. Singularity, who got top 8 last week, didn't even appear in the top 16 this time around, I believe. Well, they might have done, and I'm just being dumb. But there's a lot of teams missing that we really didn't expect. But I don't know if anyone has any passing comments on the ACL 5K. I mean, I don't even know if anybody will really know the youth teams at this point in time. No,
I know that Radiant dropped their team.
Radiant did drop their team, yes.
Like, they all like fell out, snaked each other and whatnot. That's about as much as I know. Okay. Like, genuinely, I kind of stay away from that side of the scene at the minute because it's all just toxic. So
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But there you go. There's the ACL 5K update for you guys. And of course, if you want to buy tickets, you can do so on esparena.com. They're currently £75, and we do have a £6,000 prize
above your head.
I would like to do that.
So you just go here.
I'm not. I don't have the producing level of anybody who's actually good at producing, or George for that matter. So there you go, guys. There's your ACL plug. Buy tickets. There we go. Right, moving on. now we get our big question for the week, so we'll go back to the podcast schedule. So our big question this week was in regards to viewership. So will the viewership that Scump got in the grand finals of the MLG 2K series uphold to the rest of the season, and more specifically our first major event in CWL Las Vegas? So just a bit of context for those of you who don't know. Optic Scump, aka Seth Abner, he got, I think it was 100,000 views at the very least. I think it might have been in like 102,000 or something like that. 108, yeah, 108,000 in the grand finals of the 2K. It was absolutely awesome. He got hosted by Ninja, who is potentially the biggest personality in gaming at the moment.
Potentially.
Well, we all love a bit of nade shot, but regardless.
As if, like.
No, I'm joking. But regardless, so how do we feel about this? I mean, this is the first time in a while that Call of Duty Esports has been the top viewed stream on Twitch.
I mean, definitely helps.
And it's so it's a competitive match.
Yeah, but he was still first. He was first before Ninja hosted him.
Yes,
like
that
Ninja
is
had
true.
like 50k and Scump had like 75k, something like that. And like obviously once you get near the top of Twitch, like it starts putting you on the front page and stuff, so more people tune in. And Call of Duty's Twitter itself tweeted it out, which was a little bit of a controversy with Aches.
Yes,
definitely does help.
Yes.
I don't know if we want to get onto that, but
yeah.
In terms of the viewership for the longevity, I don't know. Obviously, at the start of the year, it's always going to be higher. People intrigued to see what the new game was like. The viewership at the start of World War II was also really solid, considering like back to boots on the ground. Like everyone was excited about it, and it really dropped for the next event. So really, what I want to see is, does this keep on into the future? Because when you're watching Scump stream, you know you're going to get entertainment because he's an entertaining character. Whereas if you're watching from the stream that's covering everything and you can see everyone's perspectives, then you know that's when, if people aren't enjoying watching the game itself, then that's when you might start to see the viewership going down. I think it's a good sign, of course, definitely not a bad thing. Like there were grand finals last year with significantly less viewers than that, and the league had like 7 to 20k most of the time. So obviously it's the Optic effect, but there were other streams doing really well, not just Scumps. Like Apathies has been crazy well lately. And if he'd have been in the finals, they'd have had a lot of viewers as well. Not on Scumps level, of course, but, you know, it's a good sign. I'm optimistic.
Yeah. I mean, Call of Duty at the moment is... I mean, look, for years we've been struggling, I think, in Call of Duty. I think it's fair to say, like, viewership is very on and off. And especially last year when Optic Gaming was not at the top. Like, I think it's fair to say
that does have a big impact.
It's huge.
You see that, but Champs still had the highest viewing figures that we've ever had.
What was the highest viewing figures?
It still did well. It had like 170k in the first series of the finals.
Yeah.
Like, it did really well, which is, like, really promising. But at the same time,
I'm pretty sure we've had higher than that at some point. We have definitely had higher than 170k.
Yeah, we had higher than that in Infinite Warfare when Optic won. It was like 300 or something ridiculous. But it still did really well considering Optic weren't there. But you know, obviously, in my opinion, it's better when Optic are doing good because it's more exposure, more viewers on the stream, and at the end of the day, like if Optic aren't watching, then people that might follow the players or something, that might even become fans of other teams one day, like won't be tuning in. Because I first started watching competitive Call of Duty because I watched Scump's channel basically, but now I'm far from an Optic fan. So I think over time that happens to a lot of people, but because Scump has a huge YouTube presence, still bringing in new fans to Call of Duty all the time, you know, it's gonna diffuse, I guess, through the scene. And of course, you know, it's still going to keep Optic on top, but I can't see how that's really a bad thing for the immediate future.
Chris, you're sitting there pretty looking fun.
I mean, I agree with it. Like, there's, you know, really pretty sound statement being made there. Like, you kind of, as soon as you get into like Call of Duty Esports, the biggest name you attach to is Optic, until you like kind of develop into, you know, the scene a little bit more to understand who else there is around. So certainly I think Optic help the viewership, definitely. It certainly help with everyone else around them. Seth, like, he has been putting in a lot of work with his content recently, mainly to do with his streaming, which I definitely get. So it's really good, but I don't think it will last. I know that the green water is pretty strong, but I mean they're not that strong where every week they'll tune in at like 100,000 for him.
It's not going to be every week.
Well, yeah,
like...
this is. Well, here's the thing, right? So then we move on the discussion to if Optic Gaming are not going to be able to solely bring forward a high viewership figure at Las Vegas at our first big major event for Call of Duty of the year. What else do we need? I mean, we have the reintroduction, I'll say, of 100 Thieves, which we talked about earlier on, and they have this basis in nade shot, and of course, there is this potential for them to get those co-owners in Drake and I've forgotten who the other one was now. Scooter. Yeah. So if they were to tweet out these streams, they were to be like, oh, watch the 100 Thieves Call of Duty team play. I mean, surely that's something where.
Imagine Drake comes to COD event. Oh,
way better than DJ Khaled.
This is the thing, right? we don't discuss that awful moment in esports history. Not that the fact that
Wait, DJ Khaled, you mean
yes,
Rampage Jackson, wasn't it?
No. We're talking about Overwatch
DJ
League.
Khaled,
DJ Khaled's Overwatch League Grand Finals. Oh, it was awful.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
It was almost as cringy as
2016 Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, it was almost as cringy as that.
Oh yeah, I forgot. It's Snoop Dogg at Champs. Oh, wow, what a time!
It's incredible. But so this is, I guess, a question aimed at Savannah here. I mean, is there potential for these celebrities to come in and to give support to these esports? I mean, if Greg is in 100 Thieves, does he tweet out these streams?
I mean, like 1000%. And another thing as well is that, before I even really knew about esports to even begin with, like Call of Duty was a household name. Now, everyone that plays Call of Duty isn't exactly involved in esports. However, I feel like once they hear the word about it, honestly, it may even explode because there's so many people, like you guys said, especially in North America, that are heavily into Call of Duty, and I feel like a lot of them just don't even know that it is a popular esport right now. However, they're playing it all the time. So if they see, or just rather know, that it is out there, like if someone like a Drake just simply tweets it or whatever the case may be, it can easily become as mainstream as the League of Legends and the Counter-Strike.
Just like a little bit of support from the developers would be nice as well. Like just putting some team camos in the game earlier than like 2 months from the end of the title would be fantastic stuff. Like if you could just do a little, because they did to some extent. Sledgehammer said, okay, if you watch in theater, you get certain rewards. Whatever. Who's watching in theater? Like just if we have team camos early in the cycle, and we have incentives to watch through like supply drops or something like that, like they do for the CS majors, like that would have such an impact, because Savannah's exactly right, with so many casual fans who play the game but they're not even really aware that esports side exists. You log into the game, you don't see anything about it. Like nothing.
Well, yeah,
so the first thing you see is the winner of the latest event.
Well, this is the thing, right?
It's a little thing.
There's efforts being made, but they're in the wrong place. I mean, Activision are actively making an effort, and Treyarch as well, to make sure that the rule set, to bring it to 5v5, to make sure pubs is brought down to 5v5, and competitive up to 5v5 from 4v4. They've made a rule set that is as similar to the base game, so we can play it out of the box, as possible. But those are not the right areas to start off in my opinion. I think it needs to be, let's watch Call of Duty, just have something in there that gives people an incentive to watch. And I think one of the biggest factors, actually, for me at the very least, is those team camos that you just mentioned there, Aaron. We've had team camos in the past. Black Ops 3 were the best team camos. Like, they were amazing team camos. I absolutely loved those. But
again, it took them quite a few months. Yeah. I'm not saying their priorities are elsewhere, but obviously you can't copy and paste it, but you've already made the outline for a camo from Black Ops 3. Like, surely it wouldn't take you too many. It might take you a few 100 hours or something, but like at least get it in the game by the time the Pro League starts. Say at least set that as a deadline. That should be achievable.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just hasn't been basically any year. At least a couple of months in seems feasible, right?
Yeah.
So,
Chris, again, it's quiet.
Look, I'm just letting you guys talk because you're making a lot of sense. Now, I think
That's the
Yeah,
first time Chris
getting-
has said that to me.
that's not the first time. You take that back. I'm not a completely horrible person.
I'll take it back.
Now, I agree on all fronts. We definitely need to get the likes of the celebrities who are kind of implemented into esports, like such as Drake, already involved in some sort of way by helping to promote these events. Certainly will boost these viewership numbers. That'd be amazing. Developer sort as well would be pretty great. Yes, having these Pro League skins, which I know will be implemented this year, and I know they're going to do it earlier. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that they have been listening on that front, and they will be implementing them pretty much
Very nice.
when the Pro League gets
Oh,
implemented.
there you go.
But alongside that, I think it all comes back down to the whole Scump being tweeted out by the Call of Duty page. That's pretty big because that draws our viewership in. If the Call of Duty page itself, I think, has several million followers.
It's crazy, yeah. That's actually
with
such
that
a good
sort
point.
of-
I'd never even considered them tweeting it out before. And I mean, once they've done it, it makes perfect sense. They're like, they tweet out because, their game was at the top of Twitch, or at least the most viewed channel was playing their game. And it was the competitive side of their game as well. It would just be it would be nice, along what Aches was saying. So Aches basically said something along the lines of, it would be nice if they'd tweet out some other streamers. Because, of course, Quicker's team, he got to the final of the 2K. If he actually he doesn't really have the best quality stream. But if he's got a stream which is good quality, color correction, he has a face cam on, and he's in the final of a 2K, the 2Ks, okay, maybe this year they happen more often. But even every couple of weeks or every month or so, Call of Duty account was to tweet out whoever was in the finals of whatever 2K. Like, it's literally zero effort, but they're helping promote their game into a completely other section. Because the way I see it, in order to keep games, maybe this is going off on a tangent, but in order to keep games like viable in the long term, esports is like the way that's done pretty much. Like in other games, you see that the competitive side of the game is what keeps them living. And if you don't promote that in Call of Duty, at some point, you can keep making a game every year, but at some point it's going to die off. At some point, I feel like Activision have to realize, all right, maybe we should just make one game for competitive, and this is what we focus on towards the future. It's not what it's looking like right now, of course, because they're making crazy money. But in the long term, I went on a huge tangent. Ignore me.
It's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, go off the back of that. As I said, like, even if you do tweet it out, like if they've got this 7 million like followers, even if 10% click on to that link to go through to watch the live stream of Vegas, like that's huge, because then that just boosts the numbers right the way up. Now, yeah, it's probably more about how many people actually stay for the viewership, like how long the numbers.
Some of them will become fans. Like,
Exactly.
I guarantee you, every time they tweet it out, there's at least like even 100 people that will tune in the next time, and like it's gonna happen. It's just a guarantee. And I don't know how often in the past they have tweeted out the fact that the big events are going on. Exactly, yeah. The fact that we have such a big Twitter following, but yet we really struggle to convert it into viewership, is something that the Call of Duty channel could like really help us with, and it would be lovely to see it, wouldn't it?
Oh, so good.
Yeah, but
yeah,
optimistic.
So that's all I'd want, really. I mean, if every event or major event, COD tweeted out saying, not even just for the grand finals, just to say that this event is going on this weekend, you can tune in here, or like this event has just started, you can watch it here. Like that alone, because the grand finals, yes, it's a big deal of every event, but at the same point, you kind of want to draw those people back in, and if they get soaked into the atmosphere from the very start of this event, they get hooked onto a player or an esports team, and then they come back again the next day off their own free will. I mean, that's really where the growth is. You can't just expect people to get addicted to a game right off the back of a grand final. Yes, everyone's hyped at that point. The atmosphere is much more electric. But at the same point, we want returning viewership. We don't want just a one-off. So I think, getting them to tweet it out, before the event or just as the event starts will help people kind of adapt into this, as well as putting something in game so that they can watch it as well. Would be amazing.
Well, if we had
I
rank
wish they'd
play,
listen to our podcast.
if we had rank play in the game, that would be a good start as well, wouldn't it? If we actually had some kind of competitive playlist
come on, man.
to go
you
off.
can't release the game in October if it's not ready to go.
I
I just don't get it. It happens
Right.
every year.
I
League play, you've got to wait 2 months for
Yeah.
league play.
apologies for the noise in the background, guys. My
all
housemates have
good.
decided to stand outside my door and talk, which is just incredible plays. But regardless, if we had a rank play playlist in Call of Duty actually off the start of the game, like, it would be so much better. We'd actually have people wanting to play. And also, like, why on earth has the amount of I know this is like such a little side comment, but why on earth has the amount of XP we earn on like league play / rank play been drastically reduced over the years? I remember getting like 10,000 XP for a win on a single league play match up in Black Ops 2.
I actually don't understand. Like, they literally, they're so contradictory, because one part of them is saying how, like, we're promoting this strategical game where, as you say, they make such a drastic change to change public matches down from 6v6 to 5v5. They bring competitive up to 5v5 from 4v4. They make that huge fundamental change to the game, but yet at the same time, they reduce the amount of score maybe not this year, but definitely in the past couple of years, that you earn in league play, to just disincentivize you from even playing competitive. Like, I got into competitive through Black Ops 2 league play, and what I thought was a much better version of the game. You didn't have to deal with the claymores, the bouncing betties, the shock charges, all the public match stuff. It was just a better version of the game as far as I could see it. And, we're getting off topic again. Going on a rant. I'm gonna.
We'll get back to our final points then for this podcast. We'll wrap it up very soon. So let's answer the question then. Is the viewership going to stay the same? Are we going to see viewership numbers like that of Scump's viewership stream from the finals 2K in Las Vegas? And why?
Vegas will be huge, man. It's gonna be huge. Like, Blackout, first of all, is an issue. Like, the fact that the Battle Royale is having so much impact. Like, I don't know if Savannah, maybe, like, your perception of Blackout as a Battle Royale, because I don't know how much you've heard about it, but the fact that... Oh, okay. Maybe it's not as big a deal as I thought it was then. I thought everyone was talking about how Blackout was going to kill Fortnite or whatever. Okay, maybe it's not as big a deal. But still, on Twitch right now, most of the top streams are Blackout streams. People have been talking about how maybe that's good, getting more eyes on the game. Maybe it's bad in the fact that it'll take developer focus and fan focus away from the competitive side of things. I can see both sides of it. Don't really have an opinion. I think it's generally good having more eyes on the game as a whole, but I feel like the more fans that people have, so for example, someone like Shroud, like a huge streamer, he's playing an awful lot of Blackout. He has a lot of fans now that love Blackout, I guess, and seeing those same weapons that are used, those same healing mechanics used in a different environment in competitive may appeal to a lot of them. So someone like Shroud tweeting out the Vegas or anything like that, I think Vegas is going to be huge. Like, you've got the 100 Thieves situation, you've got the Optic rivalries. I'd be like 250k. That's what I'm going for. Going optimistic, Chris. You're probably not feeling it, but
I don't know. I
it.
think they're really pushing it too. Like, I also just read somewhere recently that, you know, they're doing like some sort of like collab merch with Drake's OEO or Vegas. So they're putting a lot of different strategies in place to really, really blow this up.
I mean, that would be pretty huge.
but
again, it's more about consistency rather than just one-off events.
Fair.
Like, it's all well and good putting all this money into Vegas. Yeah, I mean, Vegas with itself sounds incredible just because of the name.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we just need that on a more regular basis. We need people to, be coming back to view it. And now, MOG are doing everything that they possibly can to make that viewership experience much better. The talent that they've hired is incredible. Like, there are some questionable ones, but for the most part, it's fantastic. And the development of the CWL from the very first time we saw it back in Black Ops 3 to what it is now is truly phenomenal. Like, it's such a big change, and it's so much for the better now. It doesn't feel like it's being recorded in a cupboard in Germany.
Yeah.
It actually feels like it's put a lot of effort into it now. But for me, I don't think it will last. I think this first few months is where the viewership will blossom and it will look amazing. But after that, I think it will severely drop off to a point where we'll be back to World War II last season, where
Right, you're getting
we
that
saw those viewership
pessimistic.
numbers. I think so. And I think with the current issues that people have with the way that the game plays, I think it will kind of hinder the
Like
viewership quite significantly.
disincentivize current fans, because that's one of my concerns about having the rule set very similar to public matches, is that like because I enjoy watching the game and seeing the best team win. I don't enjoy, because some people say, okay, the specialist abilities, they create really big highlight moments, but
They do, yeah.
To some, they obviously they do, but to some extent, it's like if I see someone dying to something that's just really strong and basically doesn't have a counter, it kind of, like, I don't feel like that was a deserved way, and it kind of takes away from the moment, at least for me, and I'm sure that's the case for some fans who don't like specialists and competitive. So I feel like if the rule set stays as it is, then there will certainly be some current fans that don't really want to watch the game played in this format. When they're more hardcore, they prefer the gun on gun action. And you're right, like the viewership will drop off to some extent, I think. But I think Vegas is going to be huge. After that, it'll probably go down a little like it did in World War II. I don't think it'll be tragically bad, though. I think people will enjoy this game to watch much more than World War II, in part due to the fact that we have way more maps to watch. The amount of complaints we saw in World War II that, every series was just the same couple of maps because people would always veto the same ones out of the series. This year we have there's going to be at least 5 maps probably once the final rule set gets announced in everything.
But do you think that'll be before Las Vegas, though?
Maybe not,
No.
but even then, by the time that Pro League comes around, there's still going to be 5 maps in rotation, to the point where that map's issue of the boredom factor, which I think a lot of people found World War II just straight up boring to watch. I don't think this is going to be boring to watch for the more casual fans. Maybe for the more hardcore fans, they're going to find it somewhat frustrating to watch all the cheap stuff, I guess. But maybe it's probably a positive for viewership, I would say.
No, yeah. So those casual fans, like you say, which, if I'm perfectly honest, is going to be a bigger player base, a bigger viewership base than the hardcore fans. That is just the case. Seeing a specialist play like that in sort of line with what you would normally play in public match is going to be. It's going to be an absolutely huge pull. I think as much as we don't like those plays, just from my perspective, having casted those plays, it is an amazing thing to just watch happen. Those kind of tide turning moments in any competitive match, in any competitive game, regardless of what it is that causes them, are absolutely huge. And as long as, if there's one casual fan, even one, that will sit there in a lobby and watch it, sit there in a competitive match and watch it happen and then think, this is something I really want to get interested in, which I think will be the case, then I personally think it's worth it. But I think one of the biggest factors is whether the game is actually broken come Las Vegas, because at the moment I wouldn't say it's broken, but I'd certainly say there is still stuff that needs to change and still glitches that need to be fixed, and I don't know if that will be the case. But that's not a slate against Activision and Treyarch. There's only so much that they can actually do.
We can hope.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
I'm definitely going to agree with you on that. Yes, Vegas will be the big thing, but I'm a strong believer in the bandwagon effect. People are followers these days, especially in America. So I feel like once casual fans really hear and see the push behind it, they're gonna just follow along, and they're really gonna be involved.
Guys, my mic was not muted there. We'll have some close. I'm still trying to get rid of this, but I can't do anything about it.
Man.
I'll just open the door to about 6 people behind me. Regardless, you can't hear it anyway.
Nah, barely.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
okay. Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's a load of people. But regardless, so closing thoughts, guys. I mean, if anyone wants to say anything finally, we'll start with Savannah, since you're our special guest this week. Anything to say about Call of Duty and esports?
Well, first of all, I didn't even know that Call of Duty was really blowing up. I'm actually excited about it because, like I said, I knew about Call of Duty before League of Legends and Dota too. So you know what I mean. So like in the niche esports area, yes, I'm sure it's just growing. But I'm telling you, once it reaches mainstream, it'll be huge. But besides that, thank you guys so much for having me. This has been extremely informative, and I have a lot of information to take back to my potential NBA investors. So this was very helpful.
Tell them to invest in Call of Duty.
Get them to invest in me.
Get them to invest in Europe specifically. I'm just kidding.
Get us an event.
Yes, thank you very much for coming on, Savannah. And finally, Chris, and we'll start with Chris then, because he's like the oldest person here by far.
What do you mean by far?
Slightly by far.
I mean, I'm like 27. Come on.
Oh, I thought you were like 45. I'm joking, Chris.
As if you weren't joking. Like.
No, I'm kidding, Chris. I'm kidding.
You're the reason I'm getting grey hair.
No, that happened when he hit 30. Oh, poor Chris. Anyway, go on, Chris.
Fair enough.
I don't think there's anything nice for me to say right now. My mother always taught me that if there's nothing nice to say nothing at all. So, no. It's been a good, interesting week, I think, this week. I think we've covered some pretty good of the topics that we wouldn't usually have touched on. I don't think we would have really talked too much about the business side of things, which has been quite nice. I'm hoping that the viewership figures from Scump stay, because obviously the more the better. But I'm not holding out.
Definitely. And Aaron, finally, from our resident analyst.
I'm keeping the optimism high. That's my stance. Because last time I came on, I wasn't too happy about the rule set, But this time, I feel like Savannah's going to get us some NBA players to invest in pod. We're gonna get 1 million views in a couple of years as a result of this podcast. We'll all become rich and famous, and then everyone wins, don't they? Shout out to Nick Inglis in the chat if he's still a miner. What a legend.
All right. Well, on that note, then we will end this week's podcast. As always, guys, we'll be back every Wednesday with a brand new podcast, or a brand new topic, a brand new big question, and brand new fresh faces. Fresh faces. I can't speak. I'm losing it. Regardless, guys, thank you to everyone for coming on. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.